Awesome. We got another guest I know getting lined up, staying on pace. Ryan Wuebbles is going to be our next guest, researcher, University of Nevada, Reno, and Strika Jen, also FSHD patient. That is going to definitely equal interesting conversation. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
How's it going, Tim?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I must say right off the bat, I caught some of your YouTube videos about
I,
FSHD a little bit.
I didn't even know those were up until my kids the other day were literally, look, Dad's on TV, and all of a sudden the video I made for Peter was playing up on my own TV, and I was kind of shocked. It's pretty funny.
So that was like a oops.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's fine, but my wife comes in and starts telling me that she didn't know I'd made a video either because, I did it during COVID time, and
Right.
somehow it got put up on YouTube, and I didn't even know about it myself. So,
well, it helped me out a great deal, because like I've warned the past guests, I'm like, yeah, you've been Googled by me. So I was looking at all the guests, kind of getting some, questions we could talk about, or it's interesting little tidbits. And you have a lot of interesting things. Of course, YouTube videos were great. I implore actually more people to watch them. I think they're a nice, quick resource to know more about you and FSHD. So you have FSHD. Tell us a little bit about that. I guess your FSHD story is I kind of.
I was diagnosed when I was 20, and I pretty quickly, I was at the University of Illinois. I pretty quickly actually pivoted in order to go into biology because, I knew as soon as I was diagnosed, I knew it was something I was going to want to work on. I've always been into sciences anyway, so it wasn't a big transition, I guess. I was in electrical engineering before. And so I transitioned, and then I applied to go to graduate school there, where I actually met Peter Jones, and he worked on epigenetics, if you know Dr. Peter Jones. And so it just fit with FSHD. And so actually did my PhD with him, and have since obviously transitioned, and I continue to work on it. We now actually work, we have developed a couple drugs that we've looked at examining as a potential treatment for FSHD.
Wow.
In the FSHD mouse, actually it was work funded by the FSH Society. And, it had some good results. It's more of a regenerative drug. So it's not aimed at actually stopping DUX4. It's actually aimed at, once we find something that can actually inhibit DUX4 expression, how do we boost the ability to regenerate our muscle? And so that's what our drugs are primarily aimed at. And they actually work for all muscular dystrophies. And so
wow,
we work on a lot of different muscular dystrophies right now. But yeah, that's how as soon as I was diagnosed, I knew it was something I was going to want to do.
So how quickly did you take to action once you got diagnosed?
Almost immediately. The end of the semester, I immediately went in and actually changed my major and changed my career trajectory from there out. So yeah, no, it was within a couple months. I known because I was very athletic when I was young. Mm-hmm. I known that there was something going on, as I'm sure a lot of FSHD patients know. Yeah. It becomes clear, all of a sudden you go from being fairly fast and able to jump, and I was up as a big basketball player, and all of a sudden now you're struggling to get up and down the floor, and that's kind of where I was. And then I got into weightlifting in college, and I was lifting weights, and another weightlifter actually came up and said, "There's something wrong with your scapula. They're sticking out and they shouldn't be. I think you need to go get checked out." And that's actually it's funny. That's how I got sent to the hospital and ended up getting diagnosed with FSHD.
Wow. How long did it take from when you saw, when someone noticed the winging and then you went to go get checked out? Was it a long chain of doctors? Was that process long, or was it pretty short?
Uh, I was fairly fortunate. I was in Champaign-Urbana. I only had to see two before I found a neurologist, and he actually thought I had fairly weird symptoms. I don't have a lot of facial weakness, and my upper arms aren't all that bad. My legs are actually, the quadriceps and hamstrings are actually very, very weak. So I have more difficulty walking than I actually do having a lot of the upper body lifting or anything else. So I'm a little bit different than normal, but luckily they had just come out with a genetic test for FSHD, and so my neurologist at the time said, "Hey, let's do this test before we take a muscle biopsy and assess you for LGMD or some of the other muscular dystrophies where you need to take a giant chunk of muscle out." And it ended up that I did have FSHD.
So you probably not super surprised then at that point. You were all probably looking for more confirmation than anything, I'd imagine.
Yeah, at that point, I did think something was definitely wrong. I was still fairly active and running around, but it did seem like, when people that are used to weightlifting kind of come up to you and say, "Hey, you need to go have this checked out," that this is probably something not to mention, that also I had known for a while that I had been slowing down in terms of, in high school, basketball and other things. I'd known that something I wasn't ramping up the way the other people on the team were, where they were continuing to get faster, and I somehow was going the opposite way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. You're right, where it's almost like you plateau and everybody else is increasing and then you're not.
Yeah. You start heading down rather than up a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of try to tell people that we're trying to understand, like, what does that mean? Like, you just can't run fast, but you can run. Well, not really. I almost find it to be it's like a disconnection. Like, I want my muscles to do something, but it doesn't.
Yeah, you're used to them. I remember at one point I played high school soccer as well, and I remember one time, I had a breakaway, and I just felt like I was running through water almost, and the defender was able to catch up, of course, and so I was able to get the goal. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you feel like you're pushing your muscles to the max, and yet you're not traveling as fast as you used to be able to travel. And so it's, it wasn't a complete surprise in college at all. Yeah.
Now with the research, because I know people are probably, all right, because you kind of teased it there, that you see some promise of some drugs that you guys are researching and looking into to regenerate. What can you tell us? Where are you, I guess, in that process, and what does the road ahead look like?
Well, we've completed the preliminary study. The short-term results were extremely promising. We showed a large difference, and unfortunately, we don't know how to quite use the model for the long-term study quite yet. The mouse model it's brand new, and Dr. Peter Jones came up with the mouse model a few years back, and we tried using it in such a way, but that had multiple doses of what would cause the DUX4 expression, but it didn't end up giving us a force difference at the end of the day between the controls and the negative control and the positive control, which immediately means that your drug won't have an effect either. So we pretty much flatlined it. So it's partially that. It also it can be that the drug may not be able to compete with ongoing DUX4 expression, because we didn't see a weight increase in the long term, which I think is kind of sad. So we're really thinking about it being used in combination with something that can inhibit the DUX4 expression, because I think that's going to be important to see before we can really begin using it in order to regenerate the muscle. If you have ongoing DUX4 expression, that's just going to keep destroying the muscle. It may be premature to actually use a drug like what we're investigating.
But that's kind of like, I've asked that question before, and I've received that question before of, okay, so DUX4 got that, people understand it, So then if you stop that, does that regenerate muscle then? Yeah. People want to know it. They know it's like two pieces. It's stop it and then try to gain back what you lost.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. The fact is, we just don't know until we find something that really stops DUX4. And unfortunately, we use the models and we use the tools we can. We use mice, but nothing actually simulates the human condition in any meaningful way when it comes to FSHD, unfortunately. Even a lot of muscular dystrophies, it's very difficult for scientists to actually really simulate humans because we're not inbred like the mice are, and we have different immune systems, and there's a lot of differences between different mammals.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So then it becomes the hurdles and the challenges are within what you're testing it on, and then how accurate is the results really to a human. It's almost
Precisely.
like you have to kind of give a ceiling to your hope, just
Yeah.
a bit. Like, this is good, but let's just see.
Yeah, science is it's fun. It's a lot of it's a lot of fun to do, but it can be frustrating at times just because especially working on something that's medically relevant to me. I really would like things to go more quickly than they do, and I really want to see a treatment and therapeutic, but I also understand the process that these things have to go through because I know what the FDA process looks like. I know how research is conducted. I know what the science looks like, and so FSHD is it's a frustrating disease. Even looking at it from the perspective of doing clinical trials, slowly progressing diseases where you're looking for a drug that actually stops the progression of the disease, stops DUX4 and stops the progression, but doesn't necessarily start the muscle regenerating. Really difficult to actually prove to the FDA that you've done that and that your drug is therapeutically effective. It can take a long time. As patients, we know how long. It's a slow progressive progress. We're not declining at a quick rate. And so you have to think about where were you a year ago, and would you be able to tell a difference if you had something a year ago and you were getting treated for your disease that actually stopped the progression.
Right.
And I know that it's described as a plateau and cliff. Unless you've hit that cliff, I know there's several years where I could go and not actually probably see a difference from one year to another, and that makes it difficult to do clinical trials.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing. Yeah, I like how your analogy is there. Yeah, the cliff, and then you got the like the drop offs, or like my neurologist would say stair falls. You take a step, boom, boom, down, and you would tell me. But as you get older, the stair falls become possibly quicker and more dramatic. Okay. So you're saying there's a chance. So it's like so you're right. You really have a fight on your hands, Ryan. To try to create something that regenerates muscle, but fighting something that's taking it away. So you almost have to wait till something is proven that it actually stops DUX4. Then you can start your real, possible trial of what we have found. Is it going to work? Because now we have something we can, use that can show change or not, or improve. And that must be extremely frustrating. So are you always waiting then for that DUX4, treatment to happen? I mean, you must be one of the one of the most eager people in the world to wait.
I'm excited for it. We've developed the drugs and the treatments. Actually, it's a small molecule treatment for other muscular dystrophies, and we think it can be converted over for use in FSHD by FSHD patients. But we are currently testing it in other mouse models for other muscular dystrophies, Duchenne's, Becker's, which are the more common forms.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I mean, and we have exciting results there as well. They have more cardiac issues than FSHD patients do, and that's one of the main areas we've been focused on. But we're seeing really good results with the drugs there. It's a interesting world when you get into pharmacology and you start understanding the big pharma, the way they do things, and trying to move them and their motivations. It's interesting. It's fun.
I feel you treading lightly. Yes, yeah, I've heard that same thing from other guests we've had on. You know, talking about how it can be frustrating because there's no money in it and those kind of things. That's actually what Angela Leck said, a researcher out of Yale University. You know, and you could sense her frustration with that, and I think we all feel that. You know, with you, you're not alone. But the fact that you get a front row seat and, you know, in front of me and really see the inner workings is, yeah, I really give you credit for what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to do. And having FSHD,
Thanks.
I can imagine it just adds to that, you know,
Yeah,
stopwatch, hurry.
it's been a little bit, you know, just like I'm sure everyone with FSHD and moving on in their career, you know, there's been adjustments. Back when I was a graduate student, 20 years ago, things were easy. I could do all the experiments and not have issues about carrying different things back and forth between the freezers and, you know, carrying giant tubs of liquids around, that kind of thing. And nowadays, I need to ask for help, and I do a lot more grant writing and manuscript writing and other things rather than, you know, being in the lab. I'm still in the lab, but, you know, I've been staining slides today. But you know, it's typically smaller. I'm doing smaller, less involved things, and I think my career is more oriented towards actually doing the writing and data management and finding funding, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're adapting, but you're still contributing. I mean, that's the most
Exactly,
important.
exactly. I think that's, I mean, that's part of having FSHD for everyone, right? That adapt but still contribute.
Yeah, that always is the key. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being on the show here, contributing to the radiothon.
No problem.
Love that you came on, and thanks for giving us some of your time today.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thanks, Tim.